Hello guys, I'm back in Madison in my usual setup. Feels good, but let's talk about crypto because we got some big news despite a small market drop today. The Coinbase lawsuit is most likely going Coinbase's way. In fact, one analyst that was actually there in the courtroom says now he's up to 70% chance that Coinbase will get a full dismissal. Now, this would be a total and utter loss for the SEC. This is not a partial dismissal. I was thinking maybe they get the staking part dismissed, but maybe the securities part they're not going to get dismissed. So in as little as 2 weeks, but maybe a couple of months, the judge is going to come back and smack the SEC down. Probably 70%. And he thinks there's basically no chance that Coinbase essentially loses the lawsuit. And it comes down to one key factor, which I think is a very, very important factor. So he actually went in thinking kind of what I did with that Coinbase would get part of it dismissed, but some of it would go to trial. But he actually came out fully confident that Coinbase were going to win a full dismissal. So the thing is, Coinbase provided a much more precise definition of an investment contract than the SEC, and the judge is going to look more closely at that. In fact, the SEC did not even provide much of a definition of an investment contract because they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, as I've shown you before. Because if they go too narrow, then, not all cryptos are securities. Most of them aren't. If they go too broad, then Beanie Babies are securities too, and the judge isn't going to take that. So Elliot Z. Stein says, greetings from federal court in Lower Manhattan today. Today's episode, Coinbase motion to toss the SEC Gov suit, should be a great 4-hour-long argument with top lawyering, a fascinated and unsettled legal, and Judge Foley, sharp as a knife and sense of humor drier than the Sahara. She has no sense of humor. But now Coinbase, I think, is heading towards a startling victory. We only got pieces and bits of the law room action because we weren't actually there. Yes, it was actually live streamed, but with the way the judge actually asked things, I know the legal analyst, this guy, would actually know better than me, how it actually was going to take it. I mean, I thought the judge was incredibly skeptical towards the staking part, and she was generally on Coinbase's side, but she might actually want to be a little bit more careful and let it go to trial. But the SEC's arguments were definitely going into thin air. And of course, the SEC versus Ripple case, I think that's going to help it too, because that is the biggest well-known case, and the Terraform case is very, very different. So the 70% chance is actually a much, much better chance than I would have actually thought they had to dismiss the case. But a lot of legal analysts, not just this guy, but a lot of legal analysts seem to agree that the SEC did not make a very good case. And when it came to the central question of what is a security, which is absolutely pivotal to this case because that's what they're arguing over, the SEC kind of dropped the ball. My view, the one offered by Coinbase was more compelling, required investment in a business versus just an ecosystem, along with an enforceable obligation. There are a lot of coins within an ecosystem. You have to make a decision on all of them. And it's going to be Coinbase basically says you have to invest in the business itself. When you're buying a coin, you're not really investing in the Cardano Foundation itself. You are just investing in a coin of the ecosystem, but the ecosystem has various coins. So they're making that argument that makes it not a security because obviously Cardano does not own these individual projects of the ecosystem, so you can't really establish that relationship, and then you can't have an enforceable obligation. So I think Coinbase did pwn the SEC in defining what a security was. The SEC has always been wishy-washy on defining what it was because it wants to be able to retract and go both ways. Plus, the Hinman case and everything have really hemmed it in. So many people are saying that Coinbase will actually get a full dismissal now. Many lawyers are saying Coinbase will actually get a full dismissal now. And I think it's going to wrap around and bite the SEC. And this is not something that they should have actually picked on. Maybe they should have sued Binance first because of this, BNB might actually be set to rally. Now, you're saying, BNB has to pay billions and billions of dollars to the DOJ. That's true, but Binance also has billions of dollars on money. And $150 million is not much for CZ to pay. And plus, Binance is actually in good hands with their new CEO. And remember, CZ's wife is still part of the operation. So even if CZ goes to jail, I think Binance is actually going to be okay. And Binance did have a little bit of a rally towards the end of the weekend. We're back at like 330. And I think like when the bull market comes back, BNB actually might be a good temporary pickup because of the Coinbase lawsuit. Remember, the Coinbase lawsuit and the Binance lawsuit are connected at the hip. And if Coinbase gets this thing dismissed and they're not securities, then Binance most likely will get this dismissed because that judge is definitely looking at this judge. So because Coinbase doesn't actually have a token in itself, we might want to look at the Binance token in terms of like which token you actually want to buy, because Binance has been hit really hard recently. They haven't really gone up that much when Bitcoin's been running up, but maybe now it's their time to actually go up because they're going to get some of this legal clarity due to Coinbase getting it soon as well. So we got to look further into that, and that would be really good news for the crypto industry. There is a bill in the US state of Virginia that might actually protect mining rights. So this is something that the anti-crypto army is not going to like. I think certain states, they want the business and the mining business in their state, so they're going to move to actually protect them to make their states more lucrative to crypto mining, and this could be the first of many. So the legislation establishes rights for digital asset miners and validators and provides tax incentives for purchase of goods and services of cryptocurrencies. So that, my friends, is key because that could really, really have great progress in adoption of crypto. And if some cryptos or all cryptos get adopted a lot, the government can't really try to use legal methods to shut crypto down because people are actually using it for money, and that's very, very key. So Virginia's state senate has introduced legislation that delineates regulations for the mining and transactions of digital assets and their treatment under tax laws. Now, Virginia did actually vote Democrat, I believe, in the last election, so it doesn't really matter which side of the aisle is on crypto. When it comes to jobs and good paying jobs in that state, I think both sides of the aisle are on it. So the youngest member of the legislative body at 34 years old, Senator Saddam Aslan Salim, he proposed Senate Bill number 339 on January 9th. The Senate is discussing the legislation, and if it passes, it will go to the House of Delegates for consideration and then be signed into law. The bill exempts individuals and businesses engaged in digital mining activities from obtaining money transmitter licenses, so they don't have to. It also shields miners from discrimination by prohibiting industrial zones from banning digital assets mining or imposing more restrictive noise ordinances than those in place in industrial zones. So they're basically forcing equal treatment even for crypto miners. And I guess crypto miners have been discriminated against by businesses. So that's really, really good. In addition, the legislation exempts issuers and sellers of digital assets from securities registration requirements. Haha, that really gets Gary Gensler there. If certain conditions are met, such as digital asset not being considered an investment contract. And I think the lawsuits right now will actually not consider most of them investment contracts. So companies offering mining or staking services cannot be classified as a financial investment under the bill. However, they must file a notice to qualify for the exemption. So there's definitely exemptions and there's incentives to actually to actually use cryptocurrency. And the legislation also incentivizes the use of cryptocurrencies for everyday transactions by offering tax benefits. And individuals can exclude up to $200 per transaction from their net capital gains. So that is a big, big incentive in the state of Virginia. Very, very lucrative for people to actually look at, and something I bet will help crypto take off if it's adopted by other states. And I think if it's successful in Virginia, it will actually flow into other states. New ETFs have bought up 95,000 BTC. That is $4 billion. Now, $2 billion of that comes from Grayscale. Where do the other $2 billion come from? I'm not really sure where it comes from, but if you do remember that the IRS did seize a bunch of Bitcoin from Silk Road and James Zong. So basically, from Silk Road, they seized 50,676 Bitcoin. And right now, it's worth a lot of money. So that's about more than half the supply of the 90,000. So maybe BlackRock and co are actually buying from the Silk Road stuff. I'm sure part of it is because the government wants to auction them off, but they probably have a good chunk of it. And they were prepared to sell it probably at market prices or below market prices to the cabal or to the masters that be, which is like BlackRock, Fidelity, and all the others. So maybe that's part of it as well, and that's been sufficing for a lot of their needs. But $4 billion in 1 week, I can only imagine what it would be like in a month, 2 months. Yes, people are going to be trading options, shorting it and stuff like that, and options could be coming as soon as the end of February. But overall, these funds are going to have to actually take a lot of Bitcoin to meet the demand. And I think overall it's going to be way more than 4 billion. Remember, they said 150 billion by, in 3 years, 50 billion a year. That's like, 12 times per year what we have right now. And I don't think OTC right now could actually account for all of those inflows. So, the thing is, we just have to wait and be patient for the inflows to actually come, both from North American ETFs and maybe also from like stuff like the Qatari sovereign fund. Wouldn't be worried too much about this dip. It'll probably reverse in a few weeks. But overall, we're doing very, very well. And more or less, like these big buyers, they are buying adequate amounts of Bitcoin to offset some of the selling. People are still buying the rumor, selling the news. The thing is, like with the charts, they're probably a self-fulfilling prophecy, unfortunately, because like a lot of people look maybe some of the same charts, and if they all expect something to happen, they'll all behave in the same way. But like if a couple of people like diverge, then it doesn't really work quite as well. So the thing is, I don't think this is going to be a very big drop, honestly. There is a lot of buying. I mean, 90,000 Bitcoin in the span of 4 days is a lot. And there was a lot of buying and selling. Grayscale's been basically providing half of that. And maybe this like Silk Road thing's providing the other half. But I have a feeling that it is going to dry up within like a month or two. And then we will actually go up after that. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.